guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to share with you a bit of a story time about how I became an influencer, and I'm also going to share with you my top tips on how to get started if that's something that's of interest to you, because I get quite a few messages over on Instagram and here as well asking me about starting a YouTube channel and people thinking about taking the plunge. And I've definitely learned a lot in the past 7 years that I've been on YouTube. There are things that I would do differently and some top tips to give you guys. So I hope you really enjoy this video. If you're new to this channel, I would love you to consider subscribing for more content like this. I post 3 times a week on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'd love you to be part of this community. But first off, I think I'll just talk you through my story because it's definitely been a bit of a journey. I now have 670,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is crazy, and about 140,000 on Instagram, and I'm on TikTok and all those places as well. And I actually never set out to be an influencer, so I'll tell you all about that, and then at the end I'll put the tips, so feel free to fast forward to those if that's what you guys are after. But if not, grab yourself a cup of tea and it's going to be quite a chatty one. So let's start out right at the beginning. As a kid, I always had a fascination with taking photos and I loved cameras, and I always remember having a disposable camera, and with a disposable camera you just get 27 photos that you could take. You had no idea what they looked like until you developed the film. So I'd be very careful about the photos that I took. I remember laying out all of my toys to take pictures of them. I take pictures of my pets, I take pictures of my family, and then once it was full, I'd take the camera to the camera shop and get it developed. And it would normally take a week to develop because that was like the cheapest option. But then I'd be so excited to get the photos back and to look at the compositions and like how they turned out. And I just always had that love of like photography that carried on into my teenage years. I used to love taking photos on holiday or of places that we'd been, and I was always really into art. I was always quite creative and I really enjoyed it. So for A-levels I studied art, business studies and sociology, and yeah, I did well at school. I feel like I could have applied myself a bit more. Every report card that got sent home was like, Emily talks too much in class, Emily is socializing too much, Emily's talking when the teacher's talking. And it's just funny now that I actually talk for a living, and my job, like when I went into marketing, it was all about being social. So it actually kind of worked out. You know, at school there are some people that are just super brainy and do pretty well, and then there are some people that have to work really hard to do pretty well. I was definitely the one that had to work really hard to get the grades that I got. But I got enough to go to the uni that I wanted to go to. And I remember at 17 years old, the teachers asking what we wanted to study at uni. And I had no clue. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I got older. But I did really enjoy business studies, and I did always like marketing, and that's actually what my mum did. So I think it was like in my mind, I saw what she did for work and I was like, I quite enjoy it. So I went to uni to study marketing. I graduated from my degree, and at around that time, that is when things like Facebook was coming out, MySpace as well. Used to chat to people on MSN, and things like Friends Reunited came out as well. So I'm really showing my age with those platforms. From the beginning of social media, I was like I really enjoyed like how you can connect with people, especially old friends, and how you can share tips and like funny things as well. Then after uni, I booked a round the world ticket to go traveling for 7 months, and right before I left, I met Matt, who is now my husband. He actually ended up coming with me and traveled with me and my friends, and we had the most amazing time seeing the world and experiencing different cultures. It's such a shame that we weren't vloggers back then, because it would have been amazing. But we took loads of photos, so I have that. And then when we got back, I got my first job working in beauty PR. So it was my job to send out beauty products to journalists and hope that they would feature them in their magazines and newspapers and that kind of thing. And I loved that job so much. But after about 1.5 years, Matt and I were getting quite serious, and I kind of always had having kids as a priority for me. I just knew that's something that I wanted to do as soon as we got married. So I started to look for more local jobs, and I ended up getting a job in marketing locally. Matt actually set up his own business, and we bought our own little flat, and we got engaged, and we had a baby. It sounds all very easy, but it actually took quite a long time to do all of that. But we had our first baby, Fraser. We were living in a 1-bedroom flat at the time, and then soon after he was born, we actually ended up buying a house. I had my maternity leave with him. I had 10 months off with him, and we really had to plan for that. We really had to save because Matt had started his own business, so we were very much reliant on my earnings. But I had my 10-month maternity, and then I had to go back, and it was such a wrench, a massive wrench to go back to work and leave Fraser. Like it traumatized me. Even now, I don't know why. It was just such a huge thing, and I thought of every other thing that I could do to enable me to stay at home with Fraser and like spend more time with him. I definitely had separation anxiety, and it was just so difficult. Like when I would settle him into the nursery, it wouldn't be like I'd shed a tear. It would be like I'd cry for like a whole day, and like my eyes were red, and it was just really, really dramatic and horrible. And anyway, I went back to work 4 days a week, and I worked some weekends, and it was just very full on, and I always felt like, oh, I just miss him so much. Then I got pregnant with my second son, Caleb. Fraser was nearly 3, and he used to love to watch nursery rhymes and alphabet songs on YouTube, and it made me think, is there anything on YouTube for me to watch? And then I found pregnancy updates, and I used to love to watch those, see what other women were able to eat during pregnancy, how they were feeling and everything. So I kind of got into it during my second pregnancy. And then when Caleb was born, I found myself at home on another maternity leave with a 3-year-old and a newborn. And in a weird way, although I was super busy with them, I felt a bit lonely, and like I didn't have a huge amount of purpose. And when Matt got home from work, he'd be like, what have you been up to? And I could just talk about like the poos that the boys had. And I just felt like I was really looking for a creative outlet and like to have a thing. And Matt would work every night on his little laptop, and I was like, I want to have like a thing to like work on. And then I thought, well, maybe I could start a YouTube channel because I've had 2 children now. I could talk about that experience. I was about to start weaning Caleb on solid food. So I was like, right, I'm gonna make a video about how I'm gonna wean Caleb onto food, like as a mum of 2 who's done it once before. And that is literally the first video that I made on my channel. Yeah, so I put that video up, and over time I got a few comments on that video, and I instantly loved that there was this community of mums online, and we were sharing tips. And I also really enjoyed making vlogs that I could also send to my mum who lives abroad, and she could catch up on what the boys were doing. And I love the creative side of it. I just taught myself how to edit by watching YouTube videos on editing. And yeah, I was pretty much hooked from day one. I actually have never missed a week since that day 7 years ago. So instantly it was for me, and I really loved it. And at the time it was never going to be a business or anything because it wasn't really like that back then. There were very few mummy vloggers. I remember subscribing to Anna Saccone, and she had like 90,000 subscribers. And I remember thinking that was just such a huge amount. Like it was just mind blowing. Like I couldn't believe she had so many people like following along her journey. But more for me, it was, I loved like editing and putting them out there. And if like 3 people watched, I was literally over the moon with it. So I made videos that just interested me. The first one was how to wean a baby. The first video of mine that actually did well in terms of views was one that was called how to entertain a 6-month-old baby, because that's exactly what I was having to do with Caleb. So I thought, well, maybe I'll make a little video about it, and that did really well. Some other videos that did well right at the beginning of my channel were baby meal ideas, how to fly with a toddler, and my weekly vlogs. I used to vlog our whole week and then put out a video of all of it, and I feel like I had some subscribers that would just tune in for those weekly vlogs because they really liked them and they were great for my memories, and I still watch those videos even now. I'm so glad that I made them. And I just carried on with my channel for about 2 years. I'd put out like 1 or 2 videos a week, and it was very much just something that I was really enjoying. I went back to work after Caleb, and it's crazy looking back that I sort of made maintained my channel with 2 little ones, and then I got pregnant again. I feel sometimes like the more you do, the more you end up doing. Like, we just somehow fitted it all in because I really did love it, and it was like my hobby that I just enjoyed so much. But then after about 2 years, so obviously didn't make a penny, which is funny because obviously I didn't really realize how you could make money on YouTube at that time. And I get emails from people now that have just started out, and they're like, okay, I've made a few videos on YouTube, I'm ready to work with brands. But it really doesn't always work like that. Like, maybe it's easier nowadays, but back then it was like such a slow growth, and just took so long to get going. But after about 2 years, I started getting contacted from brands asking if they could give me like a gift, and if they would send me like, I don't know, a car seat or something, would I then review it? At the beginning, it was really exciting to have these brands reaching out to me and offering me gifts. But from working in PR, I knew that these things weren't gifts. There was an expectation there. They wanted a video review, or they wanted an Instagram post on their product to my followers. So straight away, I was like, it's work. So I would say no to almost everything unless it was something that I was going to buy myself. After 2 years of consistently posting on YouTube every week, I got pregnant with my 3rd baby, Jackson, and I documented his pregnancy every week in a video, just talking about how I was feeling, what I was doing, how the bump was looking. And I also made content just around what I was doing in my life, like what I was packing in my hospital bag. I vlogged the birth. I talked all about the newborn stage and breastfeeding and all of that. And a few videos actually ended up going viral, which was like over 1 or 2 million views. So like my hospital bag video just had so many views, and my birth, and my breastfeeding advice as well, because I was like, I've breastfed 3 babies and these are my top tips. And then I think YouTube started recommending my channel out to more people, and I started to grow much quicker. So when I had Jackson, I had about 20,000 subscribers, and then from then I would grow like 20 to 25,000 a month, because YouTube just seemed to be like liking my channel and the content I was putting out. They also shared me as a creator in the spotlight once, which, you know, all of that was just positive. And then I finally started working with a few brands. So like baby food places like that I was already feeding Jackson would contact me and say, we've actually got this new flavor, like if you talk about it, we'll pay you for it. And I just couldn't believe that this was a thing, because up until that point I wasn't really making much money on YouTube. You make a tiny bit on the AdSense, which is like the ads that run before your videos, but it really wasn't like enough to quit my day job. And then I started to get a few brand deals, and I was like, oh my gosh, maybe this could actually be a thing. As soon as I started working with brands, I found it very difficult to know what kind of fees to charge or if contracts were right. And I actually didn't enjoy that part of the business as much as like just creating the content. That's what I really enjoyed doing. So I ended up joining Channel Mum, and they would handle that side of things for me. And then from that, I ended up doing things like an Andrex TV commercial and other things for their channels. And it just kind of grew from there. And then when I was on maternity with Jackson, I was like, maybe I won't have to go back after this year of maternity. And then that really became my focus and my goal, that I was going to make amazing content and just get to the point where I could actually be at home with all 3 boys, and this could be my job from home. I also started to meet other mummy vloggers, and we would collaborate together. And during my 3rd maternity leave, I actually hit 100,000 subscribers, and I was able to give up my day job. But even doing that was so scary. I think anyone that's grown a side hustle and then decided to focus on that full time, it's very scary to leave your safe and secure job with your pension and your guaranteed income. It was very scary for me, but I thought if this just lasts while the boys are little, that would be amazing. It's just all been a huge plus for me. And that brings me to today. So since then, consistently I've been growing, but It feels, I think some people think I've grown quickly, but actually it has been this very slow growth, especially the first 2 to 3 years. It was probably at a snail's pace, and sometimes I follow new vloggers and I think they grow so much quicker than I did. But I wouldn't change it for the world. It's been life-changing. It supported my family through the whole pandemic, and it's just incredible because sometimes I think, this shouldn't be working. Like, I started my YouTube channel when I was 31, and I'm just like a mum with my kids at home, but it seems to work. And sometimes I think, oh, you know, I used to see family channels do really well in terms of views and they just grow so quickly. But for me, I always wanted to keep the channel focus on me because I'm mindful that one day the boys might not want to be in my YouTube videos, and it should just be sort of documenting what I'm doing in my life. Now I wanted to share with you my top tips for getting started with a YouTube channel and things I've learned. And the first tip is actually just to start. So many people message me and say, I'm thinking about getting started maybe. And I think, no, just do it. Like, when I started out, all I had was my phone. I used to lean it on some books as my tripod, and I didn't even have editing software. I just downloaded a free one online that I found. And the reason I'm saying just start is because you learn so much more from just doing rather than thinking about it. I would say that I was uncomfortable in front of the camera for the first 100 videos. I didn't tell any of my friends to begin with. I was so embarrassed. So my next tip is to find your niche and to make content that really interests you and that you yourself would click on. So for me, my channel has always been about helpful, positive motherhood content. So when I think of a video idea, I try to make it helpful, positive, or motherhood content, and I kind of always come back to that. Every now and then I'll do something like from left field, like how to clean your vacuum or something, and that will randomly do really well. But overall, that is my niche, and I always, if I'm ever brainstorming video ideas, I think, what's going on in my life? What would I click on? What do I click on? And what do I enjoy? The next tip is one that I think not everyone does, but it can be so powerful, and that is to make content that adds value. If you can put yourself in your viewers' shoes and think about what would add value to their life, what would inspire them, what would they like to see, you know, you could ask them as well. And my next tip is to be consistent with your videos and to set a schedule. And this is a huge one because it's something that I didn't do for the first 2 years, but I feel like my channel really took off as soon as I set an actual schedule, because then your viewers have a time when they know your show is viewing. So as soon as I said I'm going to upload on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m, I felt like my subscribers almost were like, oh, she's like the real deal, and like would subscribe. Of course, you don't have to do as many videos as that. I know I do a lot. You could just say I'm going to do it on a Sunday at 10 a.m. Something to keep you consistent as well. And my next tip is to engage with your audience as much as you possibly can. I've always made a huge effort to reply to messages and comments on my video as much as possible because I actually really enjoy that part of it. I feel like by engaging, you stay connected with your audience. I feel like I have a good idea of what you guys like, what you want to see, what you really don't like. And my next tip is to be your genuine self and to be authentic, because people can see straight through you when you're not being yourself. Like, I feel when I watch a video, if someone's not being genuine, I can tell, like I can see through it, and so can everyone. Like, everyone's so savvy, and there's also a lot to be said for a gut feeling in business. If some things have come my way and they sound so exciting, they sound amazing, but if I have a gut feeling like I just don't think it's right for me, then I think you just gotta say no to it. You need to trust that feeling. And just a little note on lighting and editing and equipment, you don't have to have everything when you start, but just simple things like sitting in front of a window makes a huge amount of difference in terms of lighting. And buy the best equipment that you can afford, but again, you really don't need much. Like, I started out with my iPhone for a whole year, and then I bought a camera, but it still was inexpensive. Like, you don't need amazing equipment, but it's worth always striving to do better in terms of your editing. Like, I'm still pretty basic, but every few weeks I'll like maybe add some text, or I'll add some different music, or add a different angle. Like, it's good if you can always be learning. I say this, and this is just a video of me just sat here talking in my son's bedroom. Something else I do is look at my statistics. So at the end of every month, I'll look at my video views, I'll look at how the channel's going, I'll look at my Instagram and how that's growing as well. And it just gives you such a good insight, especially if you do it every month, as to what videos people like, what they're engaging with, what they really don't like, because people will give you a thumbs down if they don't like something. And it's just interesting because I feel like that's how I've grown my channel as well. I made a few cleaning videos and then people just loved them. So I was like, okay, I'll make more of that. People love my meal prep videos. So whenever I meal prep, I'll video it. It's just a really good way to have a look at what people are actually enjoying. And my last tip is to ignore the negativity that you get. When I started out my YouTube channel, I had so many friends and family say to me that it wasn't their cup of tea, that they didn't get it, that they didn't understand it, and they couldn't believe I was going to leave my day job to make these little videos. And as your YouTube channel grows and as your Instagram page grows, you will be met with negative people that are offended and upset sometimes at the content you make. But you mustn't focus on that. You must be tunnel vision about why you're doing this and the people you're helping and what you're trying to achieve. So for me, I do every now and then get these beautiful, like lovely emails from mothers that watch my channel and they're like, I was able to breastfeed for so much longer because of that breastfeeding tip that you shared. I was able to have a much better second birth experience because you recommended hypnosis. And I try to focus on the people that are enjoying the content because what you focus on happens more. So try to just, out of sight, out of mind, ignore any negativity and you'll enjoy it more. But anyway, I think that's everything I wanted to share. It's probably a really long video now, but I hope you enjoyed this chattier type video. Thank you as always for being the most supportive, amazing subscriber community on YouTube. I love you guys, and yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. If you have any questions, any video requests, I'd always love to hear from you guys. And yeah, I think that's it. Anyway, I'll see you soon.